Call the meeting of the City Council to order for Monday, June 25th, 2018. Please stand. Pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, councilors.
A moment of personal privilege, please.
Yes.
Councilor Castro and I would like to present this evening a citation to Brian Moriarty, the director for the Neighbor Works in South, and recognize him for all his dedication over the years for our community. I'd like to invite Brian up here. First of all, thank you and good luck. Brian's retiring. The nerve, huh? On Friday. So we want to wish you the best with that, sir.
Thank you,
a safe and wonderful retirement. I'm going to let Councilor Castro go on the other side here. And we'll try to read this here for you. Official citation. Be it known that the Brockton City Council hereby extends its congratulations to Brian W. Moriarty, retiring director of Neighbor Works, Southern Massachusetts. His tireless years of dedication to addressing the many facets of home ownership through workshops, programs, advocacy, and financial assistance, and may, with all this, continue living in Brockton's Ward 5, and be it further known, Ward 4. Whoa. Be it further known that the City Council extends best wishes for continued success, that this citation be duly signed by the President of the Council and attested to, and a copy thereof transmitted by the clerk of the council. But anyway, we want to really congratulate you and wish the best in your retirement. We appreciate all you've done.
Thanks. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good.
Yay! Want to say something here? Yay!
Thank you all. Thank you. It was a great honor serving the Brockton residents at times of crisis. Brockton was devastated by foreclosure, and we came in 2008 and started advocating for homeowners to get modifications, and we served thousands of people in Brockton. So I'm grateful that I was here, and I just want to say thank you to Shirley Azak for being on my board, and former councilor Shana Barnes. And I also want to say thank you to you for your hard work in representing the people of Brockton. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We'll see you again.
Good luck. Is this thing on? Just want to make sure it's on. I guess it's on. Mr. Clerk?
The acceptance of the minutes of the May 29, 2018 City Council meeting.
Accepted and placed on file.
We have the petition of 640 Belmont Street, LLC, for transfer garage license located at 644 Belmont Street, Brockton. And Clerk's Office, 219, 2018. Hearing assigned for June 25, 2018 at 7 p.m. All the necessary paperwork is on file, and the fire department has no objections.
Time having arrived, I declare the hearing open. If there's somebody here to speak in favor, please come forward, state your name, address to the clerk.
Thank you, Mr. President, and through you, the members of the City Council. Attorney Jake Creedon, 71 Legion Parkway, Brockton. With me is Sonny Aristotamian, who is the owner, for those older members who know it as the Midas Muffler place, across from the Stop and Shop and Shaw's. He's been leasing that for years from Arthur Epstein from Florida. We recently, in May, with an option to purchase the land. So as you know, under, I think it's 62 Section C, 62C, garage licenses have to be in the name of the owner. So it's effectively a transfer from the leasee to the new owner, Mr. Aristotamian. And as you heard the city clerk read, the fire department was there recently and everything is approved. There are two things we're looking for. One is the above ground storage, which is unusual, I guess. these days. There are two 275-gallon tanks. One is clean fluids. The other one takes all of our waste fluids, which get taken away once a month by the certified waste management company that disposes of them. There are 9 bays at the old Midas Muffler, which Sonny has done, and thus in there is mostly auto mechanic with a auto body repair, a spray booth, and the City Council previously for years has approved the 9 inside storage situations of those vehicles. That's basically, there are 25 parking spaces there, so there's no parking issue at all. It's a very active business, and again, Mr. Aristotamian has other businesses in Brockton, has been a big city taxpayer and participant in city government. So I'd ask that you approve the request, petition.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney. Anyone else who wants to be heard in favor of, please come forward and state your name and address to the clerk.
You're in favor.
Yes, I can hear you.
He's in favor.
He's in favor. Anyone else? Seeing none, I declare that part of the hearing closed. Anybody here in opposition? Please come forward and state your name and address to the clerk. Seeing none, I declare that part of the hearing closed. And this is granted on the garage license, the first one, am I correct? Yeah. Questions on granting? All in favor? Opposed? So granted, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The other one is the above-ground storage, I assume separate vote? I don't know, Mr. Clerk.
Yes, he's going to read it right now. You got to read
Okay,
it first.
thank you.
Thank you.
Petition is 640 Belmont Street LLC, and transfer of above ground storage, license located at 640 and 644 Belmont Street, Brockton, in City Clerk's Office, 2/19/2018. Hearing assigned 2/22/2018, 7 p.m. All paperwork on file. Fire department has no objection.
Time has arrived to declare the hearing open. If there's anyone here in favor, state your name and address again to the clerk.
Thank you. Attorney Jake Creedon. With me is Sonny Aristotamian, owner of the property now as of May. Only additional thing I would suggest about the above-ground storage is that those 2 tanks have been there since 1966 without any releases or so-called spills.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here in favor? Councilor Cruz.
What my question is, so these tanks are
Above ground.
above ground, is there a containment system? So obviously they're not double wall tanks if they've been there for 45 years, but there is a containment system?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else here that wants to be heard in favor? Seeing none, I declare that part of the hearing closed. Anybody here in opposition, please come forward and state your name and address to the clerk. Seeing none, I declare that part of the hearing closed. The questions on granting. All in favor? Opposed? So granted.
Thank you,
Thank
members
you.
of the council.
Good
Thank
luck.
you.
Report of the Finance Committee for its meeting of June 18, 2018.
Accepted and placed on file.
Communication from the Chief of Police requesting that the City Council authorize to expend grant monies related to the Gang Resistance Education and Training Foundation grant in the amount of $2,000.
Accepted and placed on file.
Communication from the Mayor recommending the same.
Accepted and placed on file.
Communication from the CFO.
Accepted and placed on file.
We have a communication from the library requesting a transfer of $10,000 from the library night differential to library overtime in order to cover overtime costs to change the filters for all library locations.
Accepted and placed on file.
Communication from the mayor recommending the same. Communication from the CFO relative to the same. We have a communication from the Chief of Police requesting authorization to expend grant monies related to the Executive Office of Public Safety and Security Office of Grants and Research, Highway Safety Division, Fiscal 2018, Sustained Traffic Enforcement, which is the STEP grant program, in the amount of $12,867.86.
Accepted and placed on file.
Communication from the mayor recommending the same.
Accepted and placed on file.
Communication from the CFO relative to the same.
Accepted and placed on file.
Communication from the Chief of Police requesting that the City Council authorize the acceptance and expenditures of the total grant in the form of 16 car seats valued at $2,619 to be purchased by the Executive Office of Public Safety and Security through the Executive Office of Public Safety and Security, Office Grants and Research Highway Division, 2018 Child Passenger Safety Equipment Grant.
Accepted and placed on file.
Communication from the mayor recommending the same.
Accepted and placed on file.
Communication from the CFO relative to the same.
Accepted and placed on file.
Communication from the Chief of Police Department requesting authorization to expend grant monies related to the Executive Office of Health and Human Services Department of Mental Health Fiscal 29 Mass Jail Arrest Division Program in the amount of $46,971.
Accepted and placed on file.
Communication from the mayor recommending the same.
Accepted and placed on file.
Communication from the CFO relative to the same.
Accepted and placed on file.
We have an ordinance amending Article 2, Section 23-30 of the revised ordinances of the City of Brockton. Section 23-30 of the revised ordinances is hereby repealed and replaced relative to establishing a water commission. In council, February 12, 2018. Read and refer to the Standing Committee on Ordinance. That report was favorable as amended. In council, May 14, 2018. Amendment passed by a hand vote. Passed to a third reading as amended by a hand vote.
Questions on ordination as amended? Roll call vote, Madam Clerk.
Asak? Yes. Beauregard? Yes. Cruz? Yes. Darenport?
Yes.
Ianieri?
Yes.
Farwell? Yes. Lally?
Yes.
Monahan?
Yes.
Castro? Yes. Rodriguez?
Yes.
10 in the affirmative.
The ordinance is ordained.
An ordinance amending Chapter 2 of the revised ordinances, Chapter 2, Section 11-211 of the revised ordinances, as most recently amended, is further amended relative to motor vehicle repair shop or motor vehicle body shop. In council, February 12, 2018. Read and refer to the Standing Committee on Ordinance. That report was favorable as amended. In council, May 14, 2018. Amendment passed by a hand vote. Passed to a third reading as amended by a hand vote.
Questions on ordination as amended? Roll call vote, Madam Clerk.
Asak? Beauregard? Yes. Cruz? No. Darenport?
No.
Ianieri?
Yes.
Farwell?
Yes.
Lally?
Yes.
Monahan? No. Castro? Yes. Rodriguez?
Yes.
That's 6 in the affirmative, 4 in the negative.
The ordinance is ordained. Councilor
On
Bartlett.
items 20 and 21, I move reconsideration in the hope that it does not prevail.
Motion been made and seconded for items 20 and 21 for reconsideration. Hopes it does not prevail. All in favor of reconsideration? All opposed? Reconsideration fails.
Ordered in compliance with the provisions of the election laws, notice is hereby given that the state primary will be held on Tuesday, September 4th, 2018, in designated polling places. In council, May 29th, 2018. Read and refer to the Standing Committee on Finance. That report was favorable.
Questions on adoption by roll call vote? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Asak? Yes. Beauregard? Yes. Cruz? Yes. Darenport?
Yes.
Ianieri?
Yes.
Farwell?
Yes.
Lally?
Yes.
Monahan?
Yes.
Castro? Yes. Rodriguez?
Yes.
10 in the affirmative.
And the order is adopted.
Order that pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53E and 1/2, City Council authorizes the reauthorization of Parking Authority revolving funds for fiscal 2019 to receive revenues from parking violation fines up to and including the amount of $250,000. Said funds to be expended by the Parking Authority to pay expenses of parking regulation, enforcement, repair, maintenance of lots, facilities, equipment, and capital project. But expenditures for capital project shall require the written approval both of the Parking Authority Board of Directors and the Mayor for fiscal year 2019. Amounts in excess of $250,000 shall be credited to the general fund.
Questions on adoption by roll call vote? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Asak? Beauregard? Yes. Cruz? Yes. Darenport?
Yes.
Ianieri?
Yes.
Farwell?
Yes.
Lally?
Yes.
Monahan?
Yes.
Castro? Yes. Rodriguez?
Yes.
10 in the affirmative.
The order is adopted.
Order that pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53E and 1/2, City Council authorizes the reauthorization of the demolition revolving fund for fiscal 2019. for the sole purpose of helping to fund the cost in connection with the demolition of buildings in the city of Brockton, provided that no more than $110,000 may be so expended from the demolition revolving fund during fiscal 2019. And council, May 29, 2018. Ready to refer to Standing Committee on Finance. That report is favorable.
Questions on adoption by roll call vote. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Asak? Yes. Beauregard? Yes. Cruz? Yes. Darenport? Yes. Ianieri?
Yes.
Farwell? Yes. Lally? Yes. Monahan? Yes. Nicastro? Yes. Rodriguez? Yes. 10 in the affirmative.
The order is adopted.
Order that pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53 and 1/2, City Council authorizes the reauthorization of Comcast revolving fund for fiscal year 2019 from the cash receipts from Comcast franchise fees in excess of $675,000 pursuant to the cable license contract, and further, that the expenditures from this fund shall not exceed $750,000 without further appropriation during fiscal year 2019. Ready to refer to Standing Committee on Finance.
The questions on adoption by roll call vote. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Asak? Yes. Beauregard? Yes. Cruz? Yes. Darenport? Yes. Ianieri?
Yes.
Farwell? Yes. Lally? Yes. Monahan? Yes. Nicastro? Yes. Rodriguez? Yes. 10 in the affirmative.
The order is adopted.
Ordered that pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53E and 1/2, City Council authorizes the reauthorization of the vacant and abandoned buildings revolving fund for the purpose of maintaining the abandoned building registry, as well as the closing, boarding up, and care of vacant and abandoned buildings, provided that no more than $250,000 may be so expended without further appropriation from the vacant and abandoned building revolving fund during fiscal 19. In council, May 29, 2018. Ready to refer to Standing Committee on Finance. That report is favorable.
Questions on adoption by roll call vote. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Asak? Yes. Beauregard? Yes. Cruz? Yes. Darenport?
Mr. Chairman, I know I'm putting something, but following the agenda, I cannot truly see where the clerk is reading, in the sense of like I know that we are in agenda 27. I cannot really see what's going on there.
26. Order number 26.
20. No, I've been following it.
When that,
26. Okay, no problem. So, I'm sorry, go ahead. Because I've been following it. Yes.
Ianieri?
Yes.
Farwell? Yes. Lally? Yes. Monahan?
Yes.
Nicastro? Yes. Rodriguez?
Yes.
10 in the affirmative.
And the order is adopted.
Order the annual budget for fiscal 19, favorable as amended, in council May 14, 2018. Ready to refer to Standing Committee on Finance. That report was favorable as amended.
Councilors, at this point, I'm going to hold the budget. Council Sullivan is on his way. He asked that I would because he wants to be a part of it. So I think we'll continue on, and when he gets in, then we'll do the budget. So it will get done. Mr. Clerk?
Okay.
Next item.
Resolved that the mayor, police chief, and its police union representatives appear before the Finance Committee to discuss providing on-person tourniquet and holder to every police officer within the city. In council, May 29, 2018. Ready to refer to Standing Committee on Finance. That report is favorable.
Questions on adoption by roll call vote. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Asak? Yes. Beauregard? Yes. Cruz? Yes. Darenport? Yes. Ianieri?
Yes.
Farwell? Yes. Lally? Yes. Monahan?
Yes.
Nicastro? Yes. Rodriguez?
Yes.
10 in the affirmative.
The order is adopted.
Appointment of David Tixeria of 31 North Manchester Street, Brockton, to the Brockton License Commission for a term of 3 years, and council, May 29, 2018. Ready for the Standing Committee on Finance. That report was favorable.
Questions on confirmation by roll call vote. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Asak? Yes. Beauregard? No. Cruz?
Yes.
Darenport?
Yes.
Ianieri?
Yes.
Farwell? Lally?
Yes.
Monahan?
Yes.
Nicastro? No. Rodriguez?
No.
6 in the affirmative, 3 in the negative.
The appointment is confirmed.
Appointment of Phyllis Ellis of 273 West Chestnut Street, Brockton, to the Brockton Library Board of Trustees to serve the unexpired term of Jean Bradley Duranacourt in council, May 29, 2018. Read and refer to the Standing Committee on Finance. That report is favorable.
Questions on confirmation by a roll call vote? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Asak? Yes. Beauregard? Yes. Cruz? Yes. Darenport? Yes. Ianieri?
Yes.
Farwell? Yes. Lally? Yes. Monahan? Yes. Nacastro? Yes. Rodriguez? Yes. 10 in the affirmative.
The appointment is confirmed.
The appointment of Lisa O'Donnell of 30 Rock Meadow Drive, Brockton, to the Brockton Library Board of Trustees for a 3-year term. In council, May 29, 2018. Ready to refer to Standing Committee on Finance. That report is favorable.
Questions on confirmation by a roll call vote? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Asak? Yes. Beauregard? Yes. Cruz? Yes. Darenport? Yes. Ianieri?
Yes.
Farwell? Yes. Lally? Yes. Monahan? Yes. Nacastro? Yes. Rodriguez?
Yes.
10 in the affirmative.
The appointment is confirmed.
The appointment of Martin S. Brophy to the position of Treasurer Tax Collector for the City of Brockton for a term of 3 years. In council, May 29, 2018. Ready to refer to the Standing Committee on Finance. That report is favorable.
Questions on confirmation by a roll call vote? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Asak? Yes. Beauregard? Yes. Cruz? Yes. Darenport? Yes. Ianieri?
Yes.
Farwell? Yes. Lally? Yes. Monahan? Yes. Nacastro? Yes. Rodriguez? Yes. 10 in the affirmative.
The appointment is confirmed.
The appointment of John O'Donnell as the Chairman of the Board of Assessors for a term of 3 years. In council, May 29, 2018. Ready to refer to the Standing Committee on Finance. That report is favorable.
Questions on confirmation by a roll call vote? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Asak? Yes. Beauregard? No. Cruz? Yes. Darenport?
Yes.
Ianieri?
Yes.
Farwell? Yes. Lally? Yes. Monahan? Yes. Nacastro? Yes. Rodriguez? Yes. 9 in the affirmative, 1 in the negative.
The appointment is confirmed.
Order that the mayor is hereby authorized to approve the newly amended bylaws for the Brockton Council on Aging Board of Directors. The Board of Directors has voted unanimously to accept these bylaws as written.
Referred to Finance.
Ordered at the state election of November 6, 2018, a special city election also be held with the following binding question placed before the voters. Shall the city adopt the following ordinance? The City of Brockton shall prohibit the operation of all marijuana establishments as defined in General Law, Chapter 94G, Section 1, including marijuana cultivators, marijuana testing facilities, marijuana product manufacturers, marijuana retailers, or any other type of licensed marijuana-related business, with the exception of the existing approved medical marijuana businesses within the City of Brockton.
Referred to Finance.
An appropriation of the total grant in the amount of $2,000 from Gang Resistance Education and Training Foundation grant to the City of Brockton Police Department Gang Resistance Education Training Foundation Grant Fund.
Under my written report here, I have that we're going to suspend the rules and act on this one this evening. Motion been made and seconded to suspend the rules. All in favor of that? Opposed? Well, we're going to read the others. These others. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Asak? Yes. Beauregard? Yes. Cruz? Yes. Darenport? Yes. Ianieri?
Yes.
Farwell? Yes. Lally? Yes. Monahan? Yes. Nacastro? Yes. Rodriguez? Yes. 10 in the affirmative.
The order is adopted.
An appropriation of the total grant in the amount of $12,867.86 from the Executive Office of Public Safety and Security, Office of Grants and Research, Highway Safety Division, fiscal 2018, Sustained Traffic Enforcement Program, STEP grant, to City of Brockton Police Department, fiscal 2018, Sustained Traffic Enforcement Program, STEP grant fund.
A motion's been made also to suspend the rules and act on this one this evening. All in favor of that? Opposed? We're going to suspend the rules and act on this one. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Asak? Yes. Beauregard? Yes. Cruz? Yes. Davenport? Yes. Ianieri?
Yes.
Farwell? Yes. Lally? Yes. Monahan? Yes. Castro? Yes. Rodriguez? Yes. Sullivan?
Yes.
11 in the affirmative.
The order is adopted.
An appropriation of a total grant in the form of 16 car seats from Executive Office of Public Safety and Security, fiscal 2018, Child Passenger Safety Equipment Grant to the City of Brockton Police Department, fiscal 2018, Child Passenger Safety Equipment Grant Fund.
I also need a motion made and seconded to suspend the rules and act on this evening. All in favor of that? Opposed? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Asak? Yes. Beauregard? Yes. Cruz? Yes. Darenport? Yes. Ianary?
Yes.
Farwell? Yes. Lally? Yes. Monahan? Yes. Nacastro? Yes. Rodriguez? Yes. Sullivan? Yes. 11 in the affirmative.
Order is adopted.
An appropriation of total grant in the amount of $46,971 from the Executive Office of Health and Human Services, Department of Mental Health, fiscal 2019, Mass Jail Arrest Division Program grant to the City of Brockton Police Department, Department of Mental Health, fiscal 2019, Mass Jail Arrest Division Program Fund, diversion that is.
Go ahead, Counsel. Motion made and seconded to suspend the rules and act on this one this evening. All in favor of that? Opposed? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Asak? Yes. Beauregard? Yes. Cruz? Yes. Darenport? Yes. Ianary?
Yes.
Farwell? Yes. Lally? Yes. Monahan? Yes. Nacastro? Yes. Rodriguez? Yes. Sullivan? Yes. 11 in the affirmative.
Order is adopted.
Transfer in the amount of $10,000 from library personal services non-overtime to library overtime.
Councilor Beauregard.
Could we suspend the rules this evening for the $10,000 for the library overtime?
Motion been made and seconded that we suspend the rules this evening and act on this. Do you have a question, Councilor? Okay. All in favor of suspending the rules? Opposed? Councilor Cruz.
Actually, I think I'd like to ask Mr. Condon a question. Just, I notice in the letter that they want to transfer this from, it seems to be a personnel money, but they want to do some work in the air conditioning system.
Yes.
Does that need to be changed? Are they going to be able to spend that money out of where they're transferring it
If you
to?
suspend the rules, they say they'll get the work done this fiscal year, and that was the...
I'm just asking though, I don't have it in front of me, but could you reread it? Could you read the transfer from where to where?
From library personnel services non-overtime to library overtime.
Yeah, they've done work, and they need to pay the workers that did the work, or city workers that did the work.
Oh, so
public
it is
Yes.
personnel that they're paying, not...
Yes, and they didn't have enough money in their overtime budget, so this
Okay.
is from the personal services.
I thought it
pay
was
those.
to hire somebody to do...
No, no.
Okay, thank you. That answers my question, thank you.
Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Asak? Yes. Beauregard? Yes. Cruz? Yes. Darenport? Yes. Ianary?
Yes.
Farwell? Yes. Lally? Yes. Monahan? Yes. Nacastro? Yes. Rodriguez? Yes. Sullivan? Yes. 11 in the affirmative.
Order is adopted.
Resolved to invite the Director of the Brockton Public Library to discuss creating an opportunity for a poet laureate to represent the city's art and culture.
Referred to Finance.
Resolved to invite the new Director of Neighbor Works, Southern Mass, Miss Cindy Pendergast, and inform the City Council of new programs for home buyers and homeowners available to the residents and prospective residents of Brockton.
Referred to Finance.
All items on the agenda are available in their entirety for review in the City Clerk's office for all interested parties.
Do we have any late files?
An order for a late file relative to a potential settlement.
Okay. Motion to accept the late file. Second. All in favor of that? Opposed? Do we have that late file?
Got the late file, Ron? So you want it read in its entirety?
Is that the one from Councilor Sullivan? Or is that the Councilor Rodriguez one?
This is the Council Sullivan.
Okay.
Okay?
Council, you want to read it out fully?
So, I mean, I'll just summarize it in essence. The city of Brockton and a property owner, this is both Councilor Nicastro and Councilor Beauregard, Ward 5 and Ward 4, pieces of land. Former Councilor at Large, a Councilor of the Ward, Paul Staninsky, when he was sick last year and in the hospital, had asked me to support this. The session died due to the legislative session ending. Both ward councilors were made aware of this. I filed it, out of respect for Councilor Staninsky. In essence, it's a settlement. It's a land swap, the city of Brockton and a private landowner down in Ward 4 and Ward 5. But if you could read it into the record, that'd be great. Thank you.
You're going to read it, Mr. Clerk?
Oh, you want it?
Yeah.
That the City Council hereby declare that the vacant land on Thatcher Street in Brockton, identified as Assessors Parcel 132015, Plot 21, containing 36,175 square feet, plus or minus, described in the plan dated March 8, 2018, entitled Plan of Land prepared by J.K. Holmgren Engineering, Inc., registered professional engineers and land surveyors, and fully more identified in Exhibit A attached hereto, is surplus property and available for disposition, and that the mayor and/or treasurer be authorized to execute any and all documents necessary to sell the property for normal consideration to Donald A. Galante, Jr., as he is the trustee of the Regal Trust, a Mass Nominee Trust dated May 11, 2000, and recorded at Book 18512, page 1 of the Plymouth County Registry of Deeds. That the city of Brockton accepts the gift of vacant land off Thatcher Street in Brockton, Mass., identified as Lot B, not a buildable lot, containing 77,319 square feet, 1.8 acres, plus or minus, described in a plan dated March 1, 2018, entitled Plan of Land prepared by J.K. Holmgren Engineering, Inc., registered professional engineers and land surveyors, and more fully identified in Exhibit B attached hereto, and the mayor and/or the treasurer be authorized to execute any and all documents necessary to accept the gift of property from Donald A. Galante, Jr., as he is the trustee of Regal Trust and a Mass Nominee Trust dated May 11, 2000, recorded in Book 18512, page 1 of the Plymouth County Registry of Deeds. That the city of Brockton hereby grants for normal consideration to Donald A. Galante, Jr., as he is the trustee of the Regal Trust, a Mass Nominee Trust dated May 11, 2000, recorded at Book 18512, page 1 of the Plymouth County Registry of Deeds, and access and use easement to pass and repass by foot, vehicle, and equipment over a parcel of land identified as Map 131, Row 2, Plot 32-3, and described as proposed access and use easement number 2, and a plan dated June 20, 2015, entitled Proposed Acquisition and Easement Plan of Land in Brockton, Plymouth County, Mass., scale 1 inch per 60 feet, prepared by J.K. Holmgren Engineers, Inc., registered professional engineers and land surveyors, and recorded at Plan Book 60, page 65 at the Plymouth County Register of Deeds, and more fully identified in the Exhibit C attached hereto. Councilor at Large Robert Sullivan.
Our legislative counsel, Attorney Resnick, also vetted out this. She's reviewed all the verbiage before I submitted it. It was also provided to both ward councilors. But I am respectfully going to ask that you invite, in your capacity, Attorney Nezzarella, since he negotiated this on behalf of the mayor and the private landowner, if he could come before us.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Are we sending it to finance? Is that what you want to do?
I think it should go to finance so all of us could ask the questions as opposed to real estate, but that's the will of the council and you as the president.
Yep, and that's what we're going to send it to. All right, it's going to be sent to finance.
Thank you.
We have another late file through Council Rodriguez, it was, and it was sent through the legal counsel as well. What this one is, counsel, it's one that I noticed was on our list, and it's hung up in finance where it shouldn't be there because it went through as an order when it shouldn't have gone through as an order. It should have gone through as an ordinance. So what it is the adult use of marijuana establishments licensing and regulations, and it's been postponed. It's been held right in finance since April 2018. So what the late file is now is an ordinance to establish licensing and regulations for adult use of marijuana establishments. And and I have this here, which we'll make sure that it gets taken care of properly, because it's 15 pages long. So that's what it is, Councilor.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. I submitted the ordinance to begin the discussions of governing our city's approach to recreational marijuana. Regardless how the city feels about it, regardless how some members of the council feel about it, but I think we have an obligation to basically begin the process, and whatever happens at the end of the process, at least we will have our, as the old saying, ducks in a row, in the sense that we have an obligation to the city to put forth the rules and regs that will govern this, no matter how it goes forward. So that's one of the reasons why it was resubmitted, and I believe we actually had Councilor Sullivan, Councilor? I approached Councilor Sullivan in terms of developing a co-signer of this thing so we can move it forward. I mean, again, it doesn't really matter how people feel about this, but I believe that by the fact that we took an oath to move this city forward, we need to move forward regardless how we feel about it, but that's the reason why I was submitted.
Very good. Thank you, Councilor. And just to do it the correct way, I do still want to take a motion to accept the late file.
Motion to accept the late file.
Second. All in favor of that? Opposed? With what was been said, this will be sent to the Committee on Ordinance.
We do have an ordinance meeting tomorrow night here, 6 o'clock, but as I've said many, many times, and I concur with Councilor Rodriguez, we're working simultaneously. We will be having a dedicated ordinance committee meeting in the month of July, dedicated to any and all marijuana issues that are presently before this body.
Very good. And this will make sure, Mr. Clerk, I don't know if you want this, you want to take that along, and then that way there, we'll make sure that it's on that agenda when he establishes that date. Any other late files pertaining to agenda? If not, we're going to go back to item, I believe was, the budget was 27. Councilors, and as you know, at our last finance meeting, we had taken some cuts within the budget in itself, total up to about $298,748 is what the total was. You all saw your minutes from your finance meeting. I would think that you would have, and you saw where and what we had done. So at this point, so that we can get through the conclusion of the budget, I'm just going to go through, and I will read the orders and motions and how they were transpired, so that way there, if there's a change to them, we'll take it at that point in time. If not, then we'll continue, we'll vote for them and keep moving them forward. So that being said, I believe the first item that we did was what was the first one we did? Give me 1 second, councilors. Okay. I believe it was on, I think it was this one here, where I think we started with Councilor Farrell, who made a motion to reduce the following budget reduction, was properly second, and that was the Conservation Commission ordinary maintenance service from $55,091 to $25,091, which was a cut of $30,000. And at that point in time, it passed by a hand vote. It was favorably. Are we still favorably agreeable to that? Correct? Is that right, Mr.? Pardon me?
We'll have to vote on those.
Right, we got to vote on it again. So again, that's before us is the Conservation Commission ordinary maintenance service from $55,091 to $25,091, which was a cut of $30,000. Let's do by a roll call vote too, so that we won't have any confusion like we had last week. So, Madam Clerk, could you call a roll on that one? Yes. And that passes favorably. The next item we had was Councilor Azak, motion to reduce the following budget reduction and it was properly second. It was the information technology other than capital from $130,000 to $55,000. The cut was for $75,000, and that was a favorable recommendation. Then, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Azak? Yes. Beauregard? Yes. Cruz? Yes. Davenport? Yes. Lanier?
Yes.
Farrell? Yes. Lally? Yes. Monahan? Yes. Castro? Yes. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
11 affirmative.
And that moves favorably as well. Councilor Sullivan motioned to reduce the following budget reduction and was properly seconded. It was the assessors' personal service other than overtime from $549,676 to $529,676, and it was a cut of $20,000. That motion passed favorably at that time. By a roll call vote, Madam Clerk.
Azak? Yes. Beauregard? Yes. Cruz? No. Davenport? Yes. Lanier?
No.
Farrell? Yes. Lally?
No.
Monahan? Yes. Castro? Yes. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
8 affirmative, 3 negative.
Still moves favorably.
Remind people what that was. That was a separation cost that was factored into the budget. That person did not retire. That's why there's 20 grand being cut. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. The next item, Councilor Sullivan motion to reduce the following budget reduction and was properly seconded. The other treasurer's debt was from $12,731,577 to $711,577, and there was a cut of $20,000 there. That was voted favorably. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Azak? Yes. Beauregard? Yes. Cruz? Yes. Davenport? Yes. Lanier?
Yes.
Farrell? Yes. Lally?
Yes.
Monahan? Yes. Castro? Yes. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
11 affirmative.
And that moved favorably again. The next item, Councilor Sullivan motion to reduce the following budget reduction and was properly seconded. Finance, ordinary maintenance and services from $1,109,249 to $1,079,249 to a cut of $30,000. At that point, it moved favorably. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Azak? Yes. Beauregard? Yes. Cruz?
Yes.
Davenport? Yes. Lanier?
Yes.
Farrell?
Yes.
Lally?
Yes.
Monahan?
Yes.
Castro? Yes. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Sullivan?
Yes.
11 affirmative.
Move favorably.
Buddy, that's consulting money that the CFO's office budgeted for but does not need.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. And that had a favorable recommendation again. Counselor Fowle motion to reduce the following budget reduction and was properly second. Assessors personnel services other than overtime. That was from $549,676 to $5,368. There was a cut of $48,308 by a roll call vote. There were yeas and nays, and that one there was also recommended favorably. Councilor Cruz was not present. Madam Clerk, on this particular item, Councilor Fowle.
Can I speak on this for
Yes.
a moment? As you know, councilors, we had some fairly extensive lobbying about this not being the right thing to do for the assessors. For over 10 years, we functioned with 2 assessors full-time and 1 part-time assessor. And that was even during the time, I might add, when the hospital, Steward Healthcare, came online and we had to assess their property and assign a value and collect whatever taxes are owed. This particular position, unfortunately, this money is geared towards making a part-time position full-time, and it's going to a particular person. Now, I don't know when we're going to learn in this city that you can't do that. I would think, however you fall on the Lopes case, whether you think we were right, when you think we were, or you think we were wrong, the minute you favor one person over another, you're discriminating against other people. And I think it's plainly wrong. So, for one, I don't favor this because we've been able to function very effectively with the current configuration of the assessor's office. Two, it is plainly wrong to give someone the inside track, to send them to training, to pay for their course. As a matter of fact, they're so special, we paid the full tuition instead of half of what we're supposed to pay, which is in the collective bargaining agreement. That is just not the right way to go. And we're going to get ourselves into trouble on this someday. This is going to come back to haunt us. So I would hope that my colleagues would continue to continue to support the amendment that was offered the other day. And I think we ought to consider, what does it do to morale in City Hall when you do that? What do all the other people think if they feel that someone has an inside track at a promotion and a fairly substantial pay raise? It demoralizes people. It polarizes people. That's also one of the byproducts of, unfortunately, favoritism. So for all of those reasons, I hope that we still have a favorable vote on this, and I'm sure the assessors will be able to continue to function quite nicely as they have for so many years, doing what I think everyone would say has been an outstanding job. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Azak.
Before the vote, I'd just like to make a comment. I'm not sure, with all respect to what Councilor Farwell is saying, I have to say as a city councilor, I'm not privy to the information he just stated. I'm not aware of any of that, so when I'm making a vote, it's really relying on the information that I have that has come to me. So I appreciate the information he has given us, but I'm not sure where it's coming from because I've never received it, I've never seen it. So I just want to go on record stating that I am not privy to this information. So my vote is very, just from the information that I have. Thank you.
Very, very good, Councilor. And Councilor Lally.
On the motion, I also wanted to, echo Councilor Azak. I have not heard anything about this. I don't know if it's all right to mention that person's name if possible, but I think that if we're, this item separate from any, nepotism issues or anything like that, I think that accounts. I think that, as members of the Accounts Committee, I think that we should look into, making sure that nobody's getting extra treatment or extra funding toward training or a position or something like that because they're buddies. But up to this point, I have no idea who's being hired. I want to make sure that's stated.
Okay, Councilor, thank you. Council, any other councilors before we go back to Councilor Fowler? Councilor Fowler?
Yeah, just respectfully to Councilor Azak, I think by now you know I do my homework. I would be very happy to
All right, Councilors.
No vote is taken lightly. That's just want to make sure.
I'm sorry, I missed what she said, Mr. President.
No, she was making a comment going back and forth indicating what was being said or whatever, so I just,
No, my only point is I'm sure you know I do my homework. I would be perfectly happy to show you the public records. My function here as a councilor and a member of this body is to bring information to the attention of my colleagues. What you do with that information, how you vote, how you factor it into the decision-making process is entirely up to you. I've said many times I respect that. I would echo that comment to my colleague, Councilor Lally. He can assign whatever weight to my comments he decides to, factor it into his decision-making and not do so. But I just wanted it on the record as to where I clearly stand, because I do feel someday it's going to come back and haunt us again. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Azak.
Yes, I also do my homework. I ask questions, and before I make, no vote is ever taken lightly. It's never personal, and I respect the information you bring to us. I just want to make sure, I don't know where it's coming from, as it wasn't public, like I never received it. That's what I want to go on the record stating. Thank you, Mr. President.
You're welcome, Councilor. Any other comments? At this time, Madam Clerk, again, I'll just say it's in regards to the assessors' personnel service other than overtime, and it's from $549,676 to $501,368, and the cut again was $48,308. So at that point in time, it was favorably recommended. Madam Clerk, please call the roll. No.
Farwell? Yes. Lally? No. Monahan? No. Castro? Yes. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Sullivan? No. That's 6 in the affirmative, 5 negative.
And that passes. The last, no, I don't think it's the last. Councilor Farwell motion to reduce the following budget reduction was properly seconded. It's the Mayor's Economic Development Grant Ordinary Maintenance Services. That's from $225,000 to $160,000. And that was a cut of $65,000, and that was recommended favorably. Councilors, any, pardon me? I can read. It's the Mayor's Economic Development Grant, Ordinary Maintenance Services, $225,000 to $160,000. Your cut was $65,000 is what you took. So you're leaving it to $160,000. Yeah.
Could you maybe, through the clerk, I just can't remember, and maybe I've been up here too long, but what was the history of, we've made cuts in the past. I'm just trying to calculate in my mind. Didn't we start at a $250,000 number?
Do you
know the brief history of it?
That was before it was $250,000.
Right.
It was $250,000 last year. You took money away last year.
Right, that's what I'm trying, I can't remember.
But it started out, it was always at $250,000 for the time that I became.
And what was the cut last year? Does anybody recommend?
I think we took $25,000 last year.
25 grand?
Yes. So you took $25,000 last year, you take $65,000 this year. I mean, however you discuss it, I mean, it's a big piece, and I think it needs some consideration. Councilor Fowle? Yes. Yes. Councilor Fowle?
Yes, just for the record, and again, because I found it interesting that there was some lobbying against a $65,000 cut. My intent is to force that corporation to raise some funds. There's no impetus for them to go out and go for grants, either through the mayor's office because he has a grant writer, or solicit support in the community if the business community feels that they are that important. Now, if we can raise the amount of money, and I don't mean we personally, but if this community can raise the amount of money it has for the social event that's going to happen downtown, the Prova with the beer garden and the international foods, it certainly seems logical to me that we can give the taxpayers a break and say, okay, B21, we'll give you $60,000, but you're going to have to hustle. You're going to have to go out and find another means of supporting whatever you're doing and not have the taxpayer be the person who is always, shall we say, providing support with very limited, if any, in my opinion, return on investment. So that's where I'm coming from. If I were going to try to kill it, I would have mentioned the entire $125,000. But you know what? A little kick in the posterior for this corporation to go out and raise some funds, I don't think is being unreasonable. And I thank you for allowing me to comment.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Monahan?
Honestly, I agree with Councilor Fowler taking the cut, but I don't know how they're supposed to raise money on their own to pay for their function. So, I mean, although I agree 100% that they could use a kick in the butt because they have to start seeing some results, but I don't think at this time, by cutting it, we're doing any favors. I think by next year, I think we'd be more of it'd be more favorable to cutting something or improving it. But I mean, at this time, without a plan in place, I think we probably wouldn't want to cut it right now. But I agree about the kick in the butt. But we don't want to give them a kick in the teeth because I think it's going to knock it. knock them out of being able to function. But that's just me. I'm only one of 11, as Council Sullivan said.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Derrencourt. Councilor Derrencourt? Yes.
How do I put this? Is my mic on?
Yes, use your
There you go.
microphone.
At least we have a mic tonight, so I'm not talking through the lights. Just for the sake of it. So,
Councilor Monahan started to use his light, but he realized it.
well, thank you, Mr. President. Where do I put this? In the spirit of this issue, I do intend to vote against it, but let me just make this point. I personally do not believe we should continue giving money to these corporations, because if we do so, then we should do it for our residents. And some of our residents actually are being kicked out because they are unable to pay certain bills. And as you know, this corporation owns the city a lot of taxes. So although I do have these feelings, but I don't think now is the moment for us to actually cut that fund. For that reason, I guess, for this budget here, I would assume that some of my colleagues will join us in terms of voting against this. But I would hope it will send a message to them to let them know that next year it's not going to be the same. Because the thing is that although my colleague asked to cut $65,000, I don't believe it will make any impact in the sense of stopping them from doing their business. And of course, I do know that they are facing a lot of financial difficulties. I would encourage my colleague to actually give them the money this year and see what happens. I do not know whether or not they know how to raise money, but I would encourage them to search for grant, ask for money, and ask for donations, and hopefully next year they don't have to come in front of this. And I would like to see the mayor do not put this line item into the budget, because I think that we as a city, especially our residents, should not be entitled of funding this organization, meaning that we are using the service, but also we are paying for it too. So I intend to vote against it, but I would hope next year, if I do see something like this again on this, I will vote in favor of it, regardless of our budget. Thank you, Mr. President, and I greatly appreciate the time.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Beauregard.
Thank you, Mr. President. And Mr. President, I strongly support my colleague. It was one of my commitments to address the issue of B21. Over the years, we've seen very little positive results, and I have every year requested to cut the budget. And over the years, we've seen nothing from them going after grants, going after bringing economic development into this community. And we don't see a positive turnaround where we can certainly compare with other, and this is where it gets frustrating too, because they're a separate entity 1 minute, but then they want our money another minute, where we see and we know how money is spent in every single department, but we don't know exactly how money is spent in B21. We don't get reports like we should. I have asked repeatedly for information on all the empty storefronts in this city, and we've never received anything. And again, I don't know about you, but I don't want to see empty storefronts. I have an invisible restaurant in Ward 5, just so everyone knows it brings invisible jobs and invisible revenue, and that's not an asset to this community. So I will strongly support my colleague in this cut. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Sullivan.
I do want to applaud Councilor Farwell, and I do concur with him. I mean, we need to do a wake-up call to B21, and those of us that have been here for a long time and those that have been fortunate enough to serve as the council president, virtual being president, you serve as a board member. Councilor Ianieri is a board member right now on B21. You know, we do have to remember that the men and women are volunteers other than paid staff like Mr. Gallerani. I just, in hindsight, thinking about it, I concur. I mean, I think we need to do a cut. I'm not going to support the 65 grand, but I would be happy to support half of that, 37,500. We'll get to that hopefully, but I think we need to give them a little time. I think if we cut 65 grand today, I would think Mr. Gallerani would probably leave tomorrow. And I think that would have a real dire, dramatic, detrimental impact. But I concur with you, Mr. Farwell. I mean, enough's enough, right? We're not getting what we're paying for. And you can only go to the well so many times. But I asked Mr. President what we cut last year because I couldn't remember it. I just think that, and we'll have to see how the vote goes on this, but if If it doesn't prevail, I hope that this council will support Wynn and go back to the well and give another reduction tonight, because again, I think we need to show them what we really think. I just don't want to go too high at this point, but that's my humble opinion. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Sullivan. Any other councilors? Councilors, what is before us is again, it's the cut of the $65,000, which would be from the $225,000 to the $160,000 with the cut of $65,000. Madam Clerk, please call the roll. No. The order does not, it does not pass. Councilor Fowle.
In the spirit of common sense and compromise, I think Councilor Sullivan has come up with a very reasonable alternative. We will all be here next year. We will have had another 365 days to evaluate what's going on, and if you make that motion, I will be more than happy to second it. Okay. Then I'll, presuming I can use the same sheet of paper here, I will this evening move to reduce the appropriation by $37,500, and that will bring it down to
What is it?
Thank you, Councilor. Thank you.
He's been doing it for a while.
Spoken like a true salesman with commissions. So.
The motion was made and seconded that we're now going to reduce it from the $225,000, and we're going to take away $37,500 to give us the total of, Mr. Cruz? $187,500. Motion. I have a motion on that? Motion and second, right? Okay. Roll call on the motion, Mr. Derncourt.
See that my colleague are more than happy to, to cut it sort of like by half. I will still vote against this because I do believe that by talking tonight, I strongly believe it will send a message to B21 by letting them know that next year it will not be it will not be the same for them. So I think tonight I would encourage again all of my colleagues to vote against this, because I think cutting this fund at this moment, I don't think it's a smart thing to do. But I do believe they have to be on their own. But I think now we can give them the opportunity of knowing that they have to raise their own money in order for them to continue doing business in this city. For that reason, Mr. Chairman, I will vote against this, and I hope some of my colleagues will join me in voting against this demand by my colleague in terms of not accepting this cut. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome, Councilor. Any other comments or concerns? Madam Clerk, please call the roll. No.
No. Monahan?
No.
Castro? Yes. Rodriguez?
No.
Sullivan?
Yes.
4 in the affirmative, 7 in the negative.
Does not carry. Any other thought or recommendation to Council Fowler? Anything further you want to do on this? It didn't carry, right? Am I wrong?
No, that's fine. That's...
All right, so we're all set then. Next item is Council Fowler motioned, to reduce the following budget reduction. It was properly seconded. That was planning ordinary maintenance services from $83,833 to $73,393, and there was a cut of $10,440. And that was recommended favorably. Planning and ordinary maintenance services from $83,833 to $73,393. The cut was $10,440. It was recommended favorably. Councilor Fowle.
Mr. Chairman, just for the record, that was a requested amount for building and grounds money. At the time, Councilor Cruz, I explained that if building and grounds money is needed, I would either put it in the building department or I'd put it in the park department, because their park department's responsible for outside City Hall. I have no problem if another appropriation is submitted by the mayor for either park department or building, but you know, departments that operate Monday through Friday in an office setting, I don't want to get into the situation of appropriating money for building and grounds. Thank you, Mr. President.
You're welcome. Madam Clerk, please call the roll. Yes. Moves favorably. Council Fowle motion to reduce the following budget reduction was properly seconded. This is for police personnel services other than overtime. This is from $24,644,160 to $24,651,160. This is a cut of, and so everyone can hear it, $93,000. The vote was taken at that point in time, and it was recommended unfavorably. Council Fowle on.
I don't believe it was recommended favorably. It was a 5-5 vote, which meant that the motion failed.
Recommended. Right. We're not re-voting on it, right? Okay. So that's where it is.
Record, Councilor Cruz, this was to let the mayor know that we still did not approve of that public relations position. I did hear from some colleagues that they're concerned that the money might be taken for some other purpose, and that position remained. And at the time, I said, I would hope honorable people behave in honorable ways. And I might add that when we, for the councilors who believe that, just remember, when we put money back into an appropriation during the year, there's no guarantee they'll use it for what they're telling us. So, you know, that cuts both ways. That's why I think it's so important to have honorable people making honorable decisions. So that's what it was about. And I thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor.
On the motion.
Well, there's not really a motion, but go ahead, Councilor. What was your?
On this.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. If we recall, I believe when this contract was being voted on, and I stood 100% in favor of it, solely because at that time I said I would like whomever who get the job to be able to speak at least one other language, at least in other language. When I was voting on this, I stood I stood, I think, at Brockton High School, and I said that I would like whomever is getting the job to be able to speak at least in other language. And I was very disappointed when I found out that the person who got the job can only speak English. And I spoke loudly in regard to the necessity of a place like ours where we have a lot of diversity. And I made it clear at that time, I don't care what kind of languages that person speaks, but he or she should be able to speak another language. And when I find out that the person who has a job right now can only speak English, when I was told by so many people that person can speak in other language,
first of all, Council, we're getting into personnel matters, and we're not, and we got to start to separate this position from. But I'm just saying,
President,
you get into personnel.
I hope to have an opportunity to talk about this.
It's all said. Nothing's going away there with that particular line item. So, the next item that we have, Councilor Beauregard motion to reduce the following budget reduction, and was properly seconded. It's the mayor's personnel services other than overtime, from $706,236 to $6,888 to $6,888 to $236, to a cut of $18,000.
It fell too.
This one too went unfavorably, right? So nothing to be done there, right? And I think, and that's our last, that's the last item. So why don't we just take a quick recess so we know what number we got to recommend as the annual budget. 5-minute recess. Okay, going back to item number 27, and what's before us is the annual budget at this particular time. I'll accept the motion. Councilor Cruz. Motion been made and seconded that we accept the budget as amended. Roll call vote. Madam Clerk, please call the roll. Yes. And the motion for reconsideration, hopes it does not prevail. All in favor of reconsideration? All opposed? Reconsideration fails. Council, that's the adoption of the budget for FY19. At this particular time, I just want to make a couple of quick comments because I didn't do it the other evening when we had our finance meeting, but I do want to thank Mr. Condon and his staff for all that they did, and they were here every night with our hearings, and appreciate what he's done for the budget. He's sitting there all the time through this process with a smile because it's his last budget, but and well deserving of it, to be truthful with you. So I appreciate all that you've done over the years for the budget and keeping us just as honest in where we are, and I know we'll find where the extra pockets are someday, but I'll be in Pine Hill by then. It doesn't matter, Mr. Condon, you've done a great job. Thank you. And of course, I also want to thank our auditor's office and Beatty for working as well as they did with me and all of you as well through that whole process. So that concludes that budget part. Comments, questions? Councilor Beauregard?
I want a personal privilege?
Yes, you may.
Okay, thank you. First of all, we want everybody to have a safe summer. And I just want to point out that you don't always need a huge budget to get things done. I'd like to point out two groups that get things done. One of them is the Garden Club. They've done some serious planting in downtown Brockton to enhance the community. And we have other volunteers working on a new newsletter for downtown called The Downtowner. Meanwhile, let's everybody have a safe summer. Let's remember there's a whole lot for the kids to do with the summer resource guide that's available both online and in hard copy through the school department. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Nicastro.
A moment of personal privilege.
Yes.
Before this evening's council meeting, I attended the Davis Community School Grade 8 completion ceremony. The Davis School is the only one in the city right now that goes from K until 8 inclusive. And there were 89 students this evening who completed their 8th grade education there, who will be going on to high school. And it was just the most wonderful, uplifting ceremony. And I just want to extend kudos to them. Congratulations. Wonderful job that Principal Darlene Campbell is doing and the 8th grade teachers, Mrs. Pinkham and all the rest. Thank you very much.
Hands to them. Hands to them. Good job. Good job. Councilors, just schedule-wise, as you know, we do not return until Monday, July 16th. We'll have a finance meeting here, 7 p.m., and then again, City Council will be Monday, July 23rd, 2018, right here at 7 p.m. So we got a little bit of a spell, a little bit of some time off, which is nice. Councilor Lally.
Personal privilege?
Yes, Councilor.
I wanted to announce that there will be a Ward 6 ward meeting Thursday, July 12th at 6:30 p.m. Unfortunately, because the Ashfield and Brookfield schools will be closed for the summer, we're not going to be able to have it. They're not going to be able to reopen it. So it will be at the East Side Library in the basement where they have a function room. The speakers will be the city's chief financial officer, Jay Condon, and the school department's chief budget officer, Aldo Petronio. They're going to talk about the budget, some of the things in it, some of the things that we need to work on, and what it means for the city for the upcoming year. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. I also want to take time, too, to thank the city clerk, too, and his staff for all that they do for us in the course of we appreciate. Why not a little kudos? Councilor Monahan.
Mr. President, moment of personal privilege.
Yes, you may.
Let me use Councilor Davenport's microphone. Just want to tell everybody we're going to have a ward meeting tomorrow night at George's Cafe at 7 o'clock. It's going to be basically about the downtown Warren Ave, Pleasant Street area, about the homeless, crime in that area. The mayor will be there, the police chief will be there, Rob May will be there. So, and the people that are in charge of the Haven, which is that homeless center that was opened up on Pleasant Street, will be there also. So that's tomorrow night, 7 o'clock at George's Cafe. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Councilor Sullivan, yes.
Reminder, tomorrow night, the members of the Senate on Ordinance Committee, 6 o'clock here. We have a pretty lengthy agenda, but I think we can get through it. And I also want to thank Attorney Resnick for what she did during the budget as well.
Great, thank you. Yes, she did a wonderful job. Appreciate it. Anyone else? Councilor Davenport.
Thank you, Mr. President. As you know, we will not be back here until July, but I would like to take this opportunity to wish all of my colleagues a happy 4th of July and of course all the residents of Brockton. As we are celebrating this wonderful moment, I would like us to remember what some of our fellows have been facing in this country. So it is my greatest honor as somebody. Thank you. I would have to restate what I just said. Yes, Mr. President, as I know that we will not be back until July 16th, based on what you just said, I would like to take this opportunity to personally wish all my colleagues a happy 4th of July, and of course the resident of Brockton. As you know, as somebody that was born in the foreign lands, I truly understand and appreciate the opportunity of being in this country. And as we are celebrating this milestone, I know that somewhere, somehow, there are people who would like to be in our show. As we are elected officials in a great place like Brockton, I truly appreciate everything that us as elected officials are doing. And as we are facing this moment, I hope that some of us will gather together to remember of the folks who actually sacrificed their life so we can actually enjoy this moment. So thank you, Mr. President, for doing a wonderful job. And of course, I would like to thank my colleagues for keeping everything intact for our residents. And as we are approaching this, everybody just go out there and enjoy yourself. And I would like to tell my colleague Tom Monahan, just be careful out there, because on the 4th of July, somebody will look out for you. So you gotta be careful. So enjoy yourself and let's enjoy the moment. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor. Any other business to come before us this evening? Seeing none, meeting adjourned.